Now, Gaza ceasefire talks continue in Doha. According to U.S. officials, Hamas is offering a truce with Israel, which could last 5 to 10 years, during which the militant group would lay down their weapons. This in exchange for the remaining Israeli hostages, both dead and alive. Washington is confident an agreement can be reached within weeks. We can now bring in Samer Sinijlawi, a political activist advocating for Palestinian reforms and democracy, as well as coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. Now, you penned an article in The Atlantic in December titled "My Hope for Palestine." And in it, you write, the future you imagine is rooted in the past. You're in your 50s now. What was it like growing up in Jerusalem?
Well, the city of Jerusalem, I was born in the old city of Jerusalem. I am a Muslim Palestinian that went to a Christian French school, Collège des Frères, La Salle School. So Jerusalem is always a city of tolerance, diversity. It's a city of 3 religions, 2 people. So in my childhood, I couldn't find but part of my identity to see Jews going to synagogues, Christians to churches, Muslims to mosques. And until the first of days of the first Intifada is the uprising of 1987, I didn't feel there is a conflict. I didn't feel that there is the other side. But when the Intifada came, the conflict erupted me, invaded me from inside. Just like my whole generation on the Palestinian side, and I'm sure the same happened to the Israeli young generation on the other side. The conflict gives us a different identity.
And then you felt you needed to also start an uprising in yourself, if you will.
Well, that was why I thought I need to be part of us against them, and I started throwing stones, and it brought me to 5 years in Israeli jails, from the age of 15 to the age of 20.
And what was that experience like? Because it couldn't have been easy for somebody that young.
Well, one of the days that I cannot forget in my life is the day that the Israeli judge sentenced me to 5 years. It's very tough. But during this period, I started talking to the other side. The other side was the guard. I was the prisoner, but there was some kind of conversation to discover the other side. And I continued this long process of talking to the other side, talking to the Israelis. And this gives you some kind of insight on this conflict. When you start understanding this conflict from the eyes of the other side, you start thinking better of how to find a way out of it. Most of the problems now among Israelis and Palestinians that there is a lack of confidence and there is a lot of ignorance. We don't know each other.
This is something you write about because you talk about the need for understanding and dignity on both sides. You talk about the humiliation Palestinians go through on a daily basis, but you also talk about the need for understanding the pain October 7th caused for Israelis. But the problem is Israelis and Palestinians who, like you, call for dialogue, are brandished traitors and dreamers. What do you say to the skeptics out there?
Well, currently, Israelis and Palestinians, they have something in common, which is the hard feelings. There is a cocktail of feelings that is prevailing. It's anger, it's pain, it's hatred, it's revenge. Still, with these kind of prevailing hard feelings, somebody needs to remind both sides that before being Israelis and Palestinians, we are human beings. There is a common humanity among us. And a human being realizes the pain of the others also. So we need to be able to open and unlock our hearts and start feeling the pain of the other side, whether Palestinians towards Israelis or Israelis towards Palestinians.
And Samir, what exactly is your initiative? Tell us.
Well, I've been part of an initiative between 2 interesting Israeli and Palestinian leaders. Ehud Olmert, a former prime minister who comes from the Likud, from the mainstream, and the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Nasser Qudwe, who comes from Fatah, also a long history of being a leader in the mainstream. These 2 leaders have announced in July a joint proposal to end the war, release the hostages, and Palestinian prisoners and to go into creating a governmental structure for Jordan, for Gaza, including Arab presence security that will enable the withdrawal of the Israeli army from Gaza and connecting, bringing back life to Gaza, and then going to steps to a solution based on the two-state solution. If these two leaders were able to sign this document, it means any Israeli and any Palestinian can agree to this document because they come from the mainstream. So this initiative shows that maybe it's the psychological barriers that is separating Israelis and Palestinians that are preventing now people to believe that there is a possibility for a political solution. It's not the complicity of the solid issues of the conflict. There can be 10 ways to solve the issue of Jerusalem or borders or settlements. But the mistrust and the lack of confidence and the anger that is controlling both sides is preventing them from taking these steps. Most of Israelis and Palestinians would like, by nature, to coexist and would like to exit this conflict.
You'd write that a two-state solution or some sort of peaceful coexistence can only come about if there's a change in leadership in both Israel and on the Palestinian side. Israel holds elections, whether we like it or not. Netanyahu seems to keep coming back. There has not been an election on the Palestinian side. Mahmoud Abbas has been there for some 20 years now. How does one go about convincing Mahmoud Abbas to step aside?
Well, he will not do it voluntarily.
But he's 90 years old.
He's 90 years old. He doesn't see that he has an obligation to allow younger generations to come. He sticks there, and he will not voluntarily step down. I think there should be some kind of pressure, and the pressure will not come from the Palestinian street for simple reasons. We are not able to mobilize. You mentioned the hardship of checkpoints. 900 checkpoints in the West Bank that cannot allow you move a bus from one street to another street. Unfortunately, the international community is supporting a dictator like Abbas, a person that refused to respect internally the rights of Palestinians and still claim that he has the agency to represent these rights in front of the others. How come? If you don't respect that your people have the right to freedom of speech, to criticize you, if you don't respect that your people have the right to go to the election boxes every 4 years and choose leadership and give agency, if you don't respect transparency, if you are not accountable to your people, how can you represent these people in front of the others? So the international community should play a role into pressuring Abbas into allowing a change in leadership. Election is the way that Palestinians can change their reality. Most of the Palestinians are fed up from the corruption that Abbas has brought upon them in the West Bank and the destruction that Hamas brought upon them in Gaza. They need a third way, a way of construction and hope. So we need to allow the Palestinians to exercise their right of elections. Most of the international community is blocking elections because they fear that maybe Hamas will be elected, which is not true. Hamas does not have enough power to win any elections.
Now, you write also that one of the external obstacles to peace is the extreme sentiments in the West. How is it possible to get rid of these sentiments, considering that there is a huge Arab diaspora in places like here in France, in the United States? Same thing with the Jewish community that is quite spread out.
Well, most of those people who rally under Palestinian flags all over the world, far away from the conflict, they could be the most anti-Palestinians. And those who are rallying under Israeli flags, sometimes they are the most anti-Israelis. For example, can you tell me, is the slogan "From the river to the sea" a slogan that really reflects the need and the thoughts and the beliefs of the Palestinians? Do we really want to throw the Israelis into the sea? It's not correct. It's not accurate. Most of the Palestinians on the ground, in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, in East Jerusalem, they know and they want to coexist with Israel. And I'm sure most of the Israelis would like to coexist with the Palestinians. But currently, there is lack of leadership that can help both societies to take the necessary steps towards this coexistence.
We have seen the devastation in Gaza unfortunately, some Israeli hostages still remain in the enclave. Given the scale of the pain that Israel has inflicted, do you not fear that many inside Gaza will turn to violence as it's the easy route?
Well, currently, the people in Gaza, 2.3 million Palestinians, that Hamas took them in a collective suicide attack on the 7th of October and stole their lives, because you can imagine that suddenly millions of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, they don't have home anymore. They lost their lives, they lost their relatives, they are living in plastic tents. Some kids now are dying out of cold weather, not out of bombs. So these people are suffering, and these people would like to see hope, change, would like to get back their lives. All what they need now is basic necessities in life. They need to find water, they need to find food, they need to
rebuild. But who does the rebuilding of Gaza now?
Well, I think it's the obligation now of the Palestinians to produce a leadership that will be able to restore things again and create new dynamics with the Israelis. I think now it's possible to force Abbas into allowing a new governmental structure in Gaza that is not Abbas, that is not Hamas, because if we need Gaza without Hamas, we need to start with the West Bank without Abbas.
So who, if not Abbas, who?
There are a lot of names. There is young generation in Fatah, the opposition inside Fatah. For example, Mohammed Dahlan, Dr. Nasser al-Qudwa, Tawfiq al-Tirawi. There is a layer of leadership, Jibril al-Joub and others, that can provide an alternative to Abbas and Hamas. Something new, something that can provide more stability to Palestinians. You know, now, today, every Palestinian wakes up in the morning and he's sure that today is going to be worse than yesterday. If a Palestinian starts wake up in the morning and feel there is a little bit hope, today is going to be better, things will change. We are not a violent people. We are non-violent people by nature. What's happening now is a reaction towards a harsh reality. The misunderstanding of each other, us and the Israelis. We need to start seeing this conflict in the eyes of the Israelis, we as Palestinians, and it is only one word, security. And the Israelis need to see this conflict in the eyes of the Palestinians, and it is one word, freedom and dignity. We are able, if we start providing security to the Israelis, they will start learning about the importance of providing freedom to us. Until we walk the way towards 100 security against 100% of freedom, where both people are living next to each other in a two-state model. There is no other solution than the two-state solution. This is the only model that can provide a Jewish democratic state for Israelis that make them feel more secure, and a Palestinian state for Palestinians that make them feel free.
Samer, hopefully voices like yours can grow louder. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for this edition of Around the World. Thank you very much for watching.